Moving to the countryside, it can be exciting, but it's important to consider the challenges as well. So in this video, I'm going to share with you 9 key things that you really need to know before you think about rural living. So it's going to help you decide if this is really the right move for you or not. So let's get started, and we're going to count down from number 9. So number 9 is your neighbors are likely to be helpful. I know it sounds strange, but in rural areas, professional services like plumbers, electricians, contractors, they're going to be harder to find, which actually means you may wait longer or pay extra to someone to make that trip out to your house. And this is where your neighbors can become a really valuable resource. In a lot of rural communities, they're built on culture and helping each other out. And the chances are that your neighbors are going to know how to handle a lot of different problems that pop up. Things like fixing broken fence or a leaky faucet. These are often skills that are learned because these skills are necessary if you live in a rural area. And it's a good idea to know your neighbors and ask them about the trusted local resources, because many rural areas have unadvertised go-to experts, and these are the people that just don't appear on online listings. Otherwise, these people are well known in the area and they're trusted in the community, and your neighbors are going to know where to get them and how to talk to them. Now, the best way to tap into this network is to actually build relationships and to stop by and introduce yourself, and don't hesitate to offer help in return when they actually need it, because that always is going to come back to help you. Number 8, neighbors who actually know each other. Now, in rural areas, they're more socially close-knit. So if you're used to the city life, one of the biggest differences that you're going to notice is that everyone seems to actually know each other and their business. Because in the city, you may not even know your next-door neighbor. But out in the country, it's a whole different story. There's not as much going on, so everything is noticed. Now, even if your closest neighbor lives miles away, you're likely to bump into them at the supermarket, the local hardware store, or anywhere out on the road. And people who are in rural communities are usually very welcoming and friendly. So if you notice that some of them are genuinely interested to know you, and not just as a neighbor, that's part of the community. But when you think about it, this has a lot to do with the practical benefits too, because building these relationships, it can be a lifesaver, especially during emergencies, because there's not people out there that are coming to rescue you right away, right? Now, having neighbors who you can actually rely on and check on you, or who you can help out, will make a big difference. In everyday life, knowing your neighbors can be incredibly helpful. But if your neighbors can be a valuable resource when you actually need them, even in times when you have to borrow a tool or contact a local plumber, or maybe they can help you out, your neighbors are the key to this. So moving to a rural area, it means that you're becoming part of a close-knit network. And number 7 is limited restaurants and fast food. If you didn't already know, there's not a coffee stand on every corner. So if you're used to relying on restaurants and fast food, rural living is definitely going to make some adjustment for you, because you're not going to find nearly as many places to eat out. And there just aren't as many restaurants and fast food places and all the other regular conveniences that a lot of people just take for granted. But the good thing is, because there aren't fast food places everywhere, you're probably going to end up cooking more food at home. A lot more healthier and cheaper, and you might even grow your own crops. And you can save money because you'll know exactly where you're getting your food from. And because this also means that you'll have to plan ahead. So if you run out of something like milk and eggs, it's not like you just run to the corner and go get some more. It might be a long drive, and sometimes it's a half an hour or even more just to get to the nearest supermarket. So you're gonna have to plan out and think about you have enough food in the house. Now, it doesn't mean that there's no places to eat, because small towns and rural areas, they all have their little special place that they call home, right? And there usually aren't these big chains. They're usually these family-oriented local restaurants. So you're gonna miss out on having a ton of choices that you'd find in the city, but these gems can be a really fun part of your living in the country. Now, number 6 is the limited delivery services. Now, while big companies like Amazon usually still will deliver to rural addresses, keep in mind that shipping is going to take a little bit longer than you're used to. And sometimes this extra shipping involved because it might cost you more where you live. So it comes to smaller, more local delivery services like DoorDash or Uber Eats or Instacart. Forget about it. They're often not available at all and extremely limited in a rural area. So you can't always count on getting anything delivered to your door. So this also means that you're going to need to keep organized, plan for your meals, and stock up on all your essential items when you're in town, because this is going to be really important. Suddenly you're going to realize, I'm running low on something. You might want to make a list or plan to your next planned trip into town, because getting it online and having it delivered to your house, probably not going to happen real quick. Number 5 is limited public transportation. Now, if you didn't already know this, you're going to be driving and commuting, or you're going to be transporting stuff back and forth. But if you're moving from a city, you're probably used to all kinds of ride-sharing apps and Uber, but Uber's not coming out to get you in a rural area. Public transportation's not doing it either. It doesn't exist. So you won't find lots of trains or buses and things like that. So what you're going to do is you're going to certainly rely on a car. A reliable car is what you're going to need. You're going to use it for grocery shopping and everything from the doctor and everything else. So if you're moving to a very remote area, having a super reliable car, it's going to be important. Number 4 is expect longer drives. Now, if you didn't know this, obviously, since everything's not next door, grocery stores, gas stations, restaurants, they're miles apart some cases. Small towns, not so much. Maybe you go to the store and you get one hammer because they don't have a selection like at your normal Home Depot or your Lowe's, right? Now, you just can't walk to the supermarket for bread and milk like you did in a town, right? So you might be 20 or 30 or even 40 minutes drive to pick up your essentials. And this means that you're gonna have to plan those trips really carefully. So you wanna keep a detailed shopping list so you don't have to run back and forth and make unnecessary trips, or you might do without. But you wanna do all your grocery shopping and fill up your gas and all the other things all at the same time when you go into town. And many people in the country go to town once a week. So running out of something at last minute, it can be a problem. Now the good thing is there's a lot less traffic in the country if you didn't know that. So the drives are often really beautiful and driving can be much more relaxed because the roads are quieter and the great views on top of that. But just keep in mind, bad weather, like snow or heavy rain, it can make country roads kind of difficult. So having a car that's in good condition or even a 4-wheel drive, this is going to be important because it's going to make a big difference in your day-to-day life. Now, if you're spending more time on the road, keeping your car in shape is going to be good. So regular oil changes, the tire checks, and making sure you have enough gas in the gas tank so you don't run into trouble later on. And number 3 is technology that may not be the best. Look, fast internet might not even be available in some rural areas. So instead, you might be working on slower DSL or even Wi-Fi that doesn't work very well and it's kicking in and out. So making video calls or streaming movies, it can be difficult. Now you could always opt for the satellite internet, but it's gonna get a little bit more expensive. So if you work from home, it's really important to check those internet options before you make that move. Checking which internet companies actually serve your area and how fast that internet is gonna be important because rural areas are starting to get fiber optic internet, but it's not available everywhere. And also cell phones. Oh my gosh, cell phone service might be a problem. You know, stand there with your phone and see how your signal looks. Depending upon what your phone company is, you might have to switch to a different company to actually get phone service. And if you're watching TVs and movies, a lot of people in the country, they use satellite TV or download things ahead of time since streaming services might not work that well. It's something that you really have to get used to and you can't plan for it because you have to do some research. So staying connected might not be as easy as in the city. Number 2, medical services may not be close. Now you can hear a siren, but in rural areas, if you're way out there, getting medical care can take a lot more effort. You know, specialty services like cardiologists and health professionals, they're often in the bigger or large towns and cities. So that means that you're gonna have to drive several hours to that appointment. Now this can make it harder, especially if you get older and you need to go often. But emergency situations can be really challenging because the ambulance response times are often very slow because of the distance that they actually have to cover. It's not just coming out to visit, but actually taking you to the place that you need service. If you need what I say is the oil change or something like that in tire rotation, but if you need a heart valve, that's going to be a different story. Now, something serious happens, it can delay and make a big difference. So some rural hospitals, they might not have all the services that you really need. So you might even have to be transferred somewhere else further away. So you want to make sure that it's important facilities are there when you move, because before you move, you want to do your research to the healthcare facilities and actually what services they actually have. Because if someone in your family needs a specific medical treatment, it can be met with a challenge here. Living in the country, it certainly has its good points, but you got to be prepared for all these other challenges that are super important. And number 1 is finding the right home is not always easy, because finding the right home in the countryside, it can take more time and effort than you might expect. Sometimes you have to build what you want. Unlike cities where there's plenty of houses in the market, rural areas might have a smaller selection and they might not be exactly what you're looking for. So you might come across everything from older farmhouses that need a lot of fixing up all the way to newer move-in ready homes, but the choice can be limited. So you want to think about beyond the house itself, because if you need plywood or nails or anything, you're gonna have to go further for that stuff. And distance, it becomes a big factor in rural living, but it does have its advantages, right? So how far away is everything? That's the things you need to look for. How long will it take to drive to the grocery store or to school or a doctor or a job if you have one, if you're not working on your land? A quiet, isolated house, sometimes it sounds nice, but being an hour from the nearest town, everyday tasks, they can make it more difficult. It's all about that balance, right? Between what you need and what you're actually willing to give up, and then what you're gonna get out of this. So ultimately, the best house for you is the house that meets all of your needs. And this is where working with the right real estate agent can make all the difference, because you choose someone who knows the rural properties inside and out and knows the local area. They can help you identify the homes that are going to fit your priorities and make sure that you're making a smart move and don't get stuck or into a trap. Now, like I always say, trust your instincts. If you find that something feels off or you have that gut check, right? It's worth taking a closer look or actually walking away from the deal. But if you're thinking about buying a house in the rural area or buying land and building a house, my team is here to help you. Just give us a call at 843-839-9870. We'll hook you up with that local real estate expert, no matter where it is that you live. Someone who can actually help you find your hidden gem and guide you through the process and avoid the pitfalls that are costly. I'm Jerry with Jerry Pinkas Real Estate Experts. My team has helped thousands and thousands of people, and we've been doing this for the last 20 years. We have seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. I really want to make sure that you're not getting average, but you're getting way above average. So if you found this video helpful in any way, put it in the comments below. Let me know what you're doing, what your plans are, where you are. And hit that like button and go ahead and subscribe, because there's a lot of helpful videos on this channel like this. And I've got a video on buying land and what to look for and what to stay away from. You might want to check that one out. But until next time, stay happy, stay educated, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care, guys.